just this state, but multiple states across the United States of America. This situation is critical because it takes away a man's need to survive. Survival that we're naturally supposed to have, you know, and they want us to replace that survival with purchases, you know, of food and other products that has to do with keeping us nutritious and healthy and all that stuff. And not just that, but the whole thing of trying to eliminate the fact of having people have land with livestock and just many other things that has to do with agriculture and farming and gardening. They want to eliminate all this process of us actually obtaining seeds and planting them and having livestock and raising it to have our own eggs and own meat and stuff. And they just want us to buy it all from the store. They want to control the land that you buy, that you own. And it's ridiculous. I came across this video, and it's funny because this is what I've been wanting to do, is try to go and get some land and be able to grow like an orchard at the same time, get some livestock and try to, you know, make my own like things like cheese, milk, and like, you know, be able to take fur and make a textile mill, maybe, you know, sell cloth overseas or something, I don't know. But, you know, it's just something, it's a dream, whatever, that could become a reality. But the thing about it is now they're telling you you can't do that here in the States. So then it would have to be a thing you would have to do outside the United States of America now. So it's really ridiculous because our country, America, is a place that was founded by pioneers and farmers and ranch hands and stuff like that. But now they're trying to eliminate that. So what else is America now? Just a big corporation, which has always been. It's been a corporation-owned country for a long time now, you know. And so it's just like, it's not even just that. This is a situation of control. This is a situation of taking away people's liberties, taking away freedom in the true sense. You know, what else could be more freer than to live with the land out in the country or wilderness or whatever you want to call it, and trying to survive with livestock and, you know, nature, growing plants and stuff, and just eliminate the whole process and then have to depend on trying to get your money and buy things. There'll be no point in buying land just to sit there and look at it. You know, you can't do anything, can't grow anything. It's very, how can I say, it's just very ridiculous how, you know, it's just ridiculous how they got this control system over the country and how they want to dictate our lives and control things. If it's not one thing, it's another. But this right here, I think, is the ultimate moral slap in the face. And you're saying, okay, what does that have to do with morals? Well, it's wrong. It's wrong to take away a man's natural instinct to live off the land. This is what we're created to do. This is what we were made to do. In the beginning, God created Adam and Eve to tend the garden. Everyone knows this. You know, if they're not tripping on the Adam and Eve thing and where the other siblings come from and how they did all the, you know, stuff they always say. Oh, you know, they had brothers and sisters sleeping with each other and all this, and then Lilith and all that crazy nonsense. But get rid of all that crap in your head and think about it. The Garden of Eden, it was a garden that needed to be tended by men. The animals on the earth was named by men. Pretty much all at one time, you know, because they're all getting created right in front of them, you know. So it's like, and then there's animals that need mankind too. So if you think about it, there's animals that need men to survive. Cows are one, you know, pandas, I guess, is another one. There's a lot of different animals that need mankind to survive. Without it, they're dead. They're a relic. They're extinct. They're a legend, a myth. So it's like, farming shouldn't be a legend, a myth, or some faraway story. It should be a thing that happens to the end of humanity. And so, and then the renewal of humanity if need be, you know. So with all this being said, I'm going to play this video, and we're going to get into seeing what this farmer is talking about, because this has to do with the state I live in and the new laws they put place. And just so you know, we're gonna talk about this part where Oregon is trying to divide itself. You got the east side of Oregon that's trying to be part of Idaho because they don't believe in the liberal laws that they're putting around Oregon. You know, the Oregon cities, Portland, Salem, stuff like that. Everything west side of Oregon is all liberal, or at least they try to be. They just like the title, I guess, and trying to make themselves look important. But really, a lot of people are still Republican and bigoted and so forth like that. And then on the east side of Oregon, every law they need to protect themselves has been blocked by the west side of Oregon, where they need guns to protect themselves from wild animals and people trying to take their poachers and stuff like that. People coming in trying to take their animals or destroy, their land or whatever. We need weapons and things like that. So they block the gun laws only for the people in the city. So, but yet it goes for the whole state, and so it messes everything up, and it divides the state. And so the state wants to divide itself. Everyone on the east side of Oregon wants to be a part of Idaho and split the country, or the state up, I should say, into this little tiny frame. So everyone on the west side is in a little tiny state, and Idaho becomes this big state mixed with Oregon. And that's sad because of everything Oregon was created about through the Louisiana Purchase that led us to the Oregon Trail. And there's a lot of history in Oregon, starting from the east to the west. And now people's selfish needs and desires overwhelm those that are trying to live a simple life, just to provide for their family, and don't want to be a part of the city life where there's a lot of chaos and corruption and greed and perversion. So it's just like a big slap in the face to the people of Eastern Oregon with this thing this guy's about to say. It's a big, big, big slap in the face. Huge, to take away a natural way of living. So here we go.
Like, these types of stories are starting to become so prolific, you could almost do a video a day on this stuff. But today I wanted to talk about the state of Oregon. And I know that some of you are probably thinking, this is Oregon, this is what happens in Oregon. But hear me out on this, because a lot of these things kind of start in some of these states, and then you start seeing them spread to other states. Okay, so the state of Oregon has effectively shut down small farms and market gardens on a large scale. And
see, that's what I'm saying. Why would they want to shut down, farms and even gardens and, even a whole bunch of places where you would sell things as a natural farmer? You have a farmer's market. Why would you shut that type of stuff down? So it makes no sense. And it's just like, you don't want people to eat. And here's the thing that's the trip to, and I'm not just going to say they don't want people to buy land. That's what it seems like to me. But on top of that, you got those rich people like, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, all these guys, and they're running around buying up all the land in the country and anywhere they can. Why are they buying up all the land? Why are people like this trying to stop people from living off the land? So this is some interesting crap, and I have to say crap because it doesn't make any sense. Okay, it just doesn't make any sense at all. So you'd have to say there's an ulterior motive behind it. Whatever it is, they don't want you to know. But I'm going to let this guy continue.
And they're actually sending out cease and desist letters to farms, and they're using satellite technology to find their victims and then send them these letters and say, you can't operate. And they're doing it in the name of water conservation, groundwater protection. So there are two different laws that they're using to this effect. And I wanted to just mention those laws with a couple of these cases so that you get an idea of how they're being interpreted and utilized to shut down small farms. Okay, so I found a court case that was filed in January of this year. And it basically, in the National Review, there was an article that said, Oregon's government and dairy industry join forces against small farmers. And what they're doing in the state of Oregon is they've redefined what a CAFO is. And this doesn't just apply to small dairy farmers. This applies to people who have chicken houses, who have goat farms, basically anybody who has a barn or a facility that has a gravel or concrete floor. I will actually read to you what the definition is.
So that's just, even so, there's not just one type of farm they want to get rid of. It's pretty much, from what he just said, eliminating any type of farm. You know, he said chicken coops, he said goat farms, you know, gravel roads, concrete, you know, floors, stuff like that. That's every farm. There's no one that's safe. Okay, if you're having a farm and you want to, there's nobody safe from getting their farm taken away from them. And this is bad. This is horrible. This is just bad. This is something that has to be overturned. It has to be fought. It should be fought, and it should be a new bill to stop anything like this from ever happening again. You know, it should go straight to Congress. But it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you're out in the farm, you're not bothering too much anybody. No one knows you're out there, really. No one's bothering you unless they care about trying to figure out where they can get real, fresh, organic food or whatever. You know, what do you call it? Free-ranged chickens and stuff like that. But to go to a place where there's less violence and less things and take away their livelihood is an insult. It's an insult to humanity. I'm sorry I have to say it. It just doesn't make any sense to me why you would take away someone's livelihood, their family legacy. In some cases, some people have farms and stuff that went around from, you know, one generation all the way to like 7, 8 generations of people passing the farm down, you know, the line to certain relatives that were able to, that want to get away from the city, period, and just want to live a life that pleases them. So this is something that really needs to be fought against.
And then we'll talk about how it's been impacting some people. According to Oregon, a CAFO, or a Confined Animal Feeding Operation, CAFO, the state of Oregon defines CAFOs as the concentrated feeding or holding of animals or poultry, including but not limited to a horse, cattle, sheep, or swine feeding areas, dairy confinement areas, and poultry and egg production facilities where the surface has been prepared with concrete, rock, or fibrous material to support animals in wet weather. That is what they define as a CAFO. And so what's happening in Oregon, and why the small dairies have filed a lawsuit against the state, and really I think from the list that you just heard me read, anybody who's producing eggs, it doesn't matter the size of the operation. You could have 2 milking cows. Okay, so here's an example for you.
Before I play that, you know, he keeps trying to say it doesn't matter the size. He's just trying to explain in so many words that no one's safe. Okay, no farm is safe, no ranch is safe, none of this stuff is protected anymore. And, you know, like you said, there's a lawsuit going on against the state of Oregon for this thing they're trying to pass. And to me, that is good, because we need to fight against stuff like this and let people have their livelihood and their family legacies passed down through ranching and all that. And we need natural stuff that we know isn't being injected with things, or, you know, people always tell you stay away from processed food. So there's the non-processed food, there's the place to grow up with a safe environment for your children, and a place to be connected to the land like man's supposed to be. It's a natural order of things. It's the way God intended. So to take away that, it's some kind of, I just think it's a real thing where the wealthy is trying to keep themselves wealthy. I mean, honestly, some farmers are wealthy people, and these wealthy people are actually controlling everything. Now, if you get rid of every other farm and just keep wealthy farms, then the wealthy farms is only going to grow and become the giant monopoly or empire that, you know, most wealthy businesses become. And so that eliminates the competition, is what it does. It eliminates all competition whether big or small, and makes those people have to go back to a city and avoid things. And yeah, it costs a lot of money to live on a farm sometimes. But if you have a big farm, you know, and you don't really have something that's going out into the supermarkets and stuff. But to put it in other ways, the wealthy keep trying to find ways to make it difficult for the common folk and the poor people. So it's a bad thing. So we'll get back to this.
Sarah King, who owns Godspeed Hollow Farm in Newburgh, Oregon, has a pickup station that's just 100 feet in length. She has an 11-acre property and keeps things pretty simple. She has 3 milking cows. She's been shut down for being called a CAFO. But because she has that milking stand, the state of Oregon said, you are a CAFO, and because you are considered a CAFO, we require you to put in this infrastructure improvement, which would cost her $100,000. You could never do with a couple cows. We're requiring this massive infrastructure upgrade for you to continue to operate your facilities to protect our groundwater from your 2 cows standing on a milking stand. And this is a problem that I see. The way that they have redefined CAFOs is going to impact nearly everybody. I mean, even on our farm, everybody's out to pasture. We don't have animals that are necessarily contained in one area. But on the bottom of our chicken house, do we have gravel and rock? Yes, we do. And in certain areas where, you know, we pull animals in, we have gravel and rock. It just makes a lot of sense sometimes to have clean spaces. Sheep, for example, you don't want to shear a sheep just out in the field somewhere. I mean, you need a clean surface to do that, or you're going to end up with a bunch of stuff in your wool. So this law is being enforced in the state of Oregon. It has already shut down some farms. There's an injunction on the definition of the law until it can be heard in court, since the League of Justice or whoever they are have filed a court case in January to try and stop it. So currently, small dairy farmers, the way that I first read the article, you would think that they were going after, raw milk. That always seems to be the case with a lot of these things. But this is actually going after anybody, egg producers, anybody who has chickens that go up in a chicken house at night that may have a concrete floor that's easy for cleaning or whatever it is, and you have to go through a permitting process, and a lot of what they're requiring is just simply too much for the small farmer. So that's rule number 1 that's been impacting small farmers and is actually a part of an active court case right now. The second rule...
So before he gets to the second rule, that's ridiculous. You're saying that, and this is exactly what I was just saying a minute ago, wealthy farms is what they want. They want to keep wealthy farmers in business, making money, giving us food and stuff through supermarkets and things, and maybe through restaurants, because some people, they have farms just to put into, like to have livestock to get beef or whatever, and they'll put it to a restaurant so they can sell food, which pretty much they have their own, they don't have to go outside of their own organization to, require meat and stuff from some other kind of vendor or farm or whatever. They got their own places where they can supply their own meat and vegetables and things. And so that's when it comes to business, or rich people business with farms. But when it comes to what he's saying, this is like a small time farmer. The lady was with 2 cows or whatever, and she still got taxed on this thing. And even what he's saying about chicken coops that's small and stuff, these people can still get penalized against it. So what they want is, if a farmer is going to be out there, they want that farmer to have enough money to supply what their demands are. And that's ridiculous, because your demands can be anything. And then if it's not legally written down what the demands are, they can tack on more stuff anytime they want. It's just like a contractor. They'll just tack on things, keep trying to milk you for money, and they'll half-ass do the work. This is what contractors do. So it's just really bad. It doesn't make any sense, and it's a shame that they would allow something like this to happen in modern society. It doesn't. I mean, with all the other crap going on in the world, when it comes to how we're getting treated by the government and people, period. To take away someone's farm that might be, we don't know. We might be eating stuff that ain't, right, and some of it's a chemical experiment, but they make the cover look nice, or they make the stuff looks good, and all that. They make the stew cans and all that. They like, beans and all that look all good and stuff, and give it to us through canned goods and chips and all that nonsense. And the whole time we're getting experimented on by these things. I mean, there's certain foods you got to question that was out in population that's no longer around, and then they don't give you an explanation why it's no longer around. So I'm just saying that this is a natural way of growing food and healthy. So I think they want to eliminate the health and make us more weak, and just make it so we don't have any knowledge on how to survive. So when the time comes of D-Day, or whatever you want to call Judgment Day, or whatever, or Armageddon, whatever you want to call it, okay, when that time comes, you don't have anybody that knows how to farm, or how to grow, or produce any kind of livestock health for animals. And that's just my opinion.
Is one that I found fairly interesting. So in the state of Oregon, if you are using water, even groundwater, the only water that you can legally harvest and use without a permit is actually rainwater. Okay, but they consider all water in the ground a resource of the public, the people. Even if you have a private well on your property, that belongs to the people of Oregon, not you. So
real quick stop right there. There's another state, I can't remember now, but I just had this exact conversation about water. Because I invented a blueprint a long time ago, and I redrew it for somebody, and I was explaining how to contain a lot of water, and I was thinking about not rain, but snow. A lot of snow happens during the year, and I created this whole thing where it's this big structure, okay, and it's about 50 feet tall, about 3 yards wide, or not 3 yards, 3 acres wide, the way I designed it, and I ain't put it in the physical form yet, but I designed it that way, 3 acres long, and anyway, it has this big metal, it's actually titanium, and it comes down and whatever it collects when it comes to snow melts, turns into water, of course. So summertime comes around, you have an endless supply of water, and it's able to just like constantly soak the soil, make plants grow, constantly have water for animals and whatever else you need. But somebody was saying at the time that was telling me that the water is actually government water, because the rainwater, so whenever it rains or snows, that water isn't your water, it's the government water and snow. So I was like, that's stupid. It's coming from the sky, it's coming from heaven. It's not just something that you went into the water company and got a hose and started spraying stuff. You got it literally from the sky, literally from the clouds, and it makes no sense why you would be able to claim it. You can't claim something that's a natural resource that's naturally around the whole world. This is the most different resource than gold or metal or any type of thing like that, wheats or spices and stuff that come from certain regions. Water comes everywhere. Rain falls everywhere. Snow falls everywhere. No one owns it. God created it. It's yours. It's everyone's. But it's not the government's. You can't stop people from walking in the rain. So how the hell are you going to stop people from collecting it? It's stupid. That's just my opinion.
What they've said is basically if you're using it for commercial purposes, you have to have a permit. Now, there's an exemption to this rule. And this is a rule that went into place back in 2021, and then it has slowly rolled out to the point where market gardeners with a half acre of land are now receiving cease and desist orders saying, you can't water your gardens. Figure out another way to do it. So under this rule, there's an exemption for commercial and industrial use for up to 5,000 gallons per day. Okay, so these gardeners with a half acre of land are probably using 1,000 gallons of water a day, not even 1,000 gallons of water a day. You would think that they're saying you're a commercial business, because if you are growing food for yourself, they still allow you to utilize, water from your well to grow a half-acre garden, up to a half-acre garden. There's a limit on that. But this is the story I read was about a half-acre market garden where the lady has been growing food and selling it to neighbors. It's been her primary income source. And they shut her down. Christina Del Campo.
Okay, so this is ridiculous. Like I said, we're trying to shut down people even using well water. And so, well water in the ground is there's in some state, I forget what state it was, like I said. And this guy said that if they use the rainwater, collect the rainwater, it's the government's or the local government's water. So that doesn't help anybody if you're out there in the wilderness and stuff, and then you have no access to use any water, not even rainwater. It's the most ridiculous thing. So it's just once again, you're taking away natural order of things by taking away people's farms and how to survive on the land. Then you're taking away their natural order of things to even survive with water that's coming from the sky from rain. Even Moses had manta, which I've trying to figure out what manta is for years. I think it's some kind of gel on a leaf that I studied or whatever. But anyway, so my point of what I'm trying to say is, how can you honestly say that rain is something that is owned and that, you're trying to take? This is taking away survival. Why do you want to take away human survival? Unless you're trying to destroy, ruin, and corrupt the whole human mortal coil, and trying to manipulate the land for your own selfish desires. And that's pretty much how I see it.
Has just over a half acre. She grows blueberries, local vegetables, things like that. Her farm is called Oak Song Farm near Eugene. She's operated there for 7 years, and she recently received a letter from the regional office of the Oregon Water Resources Department. It was a notification that the farm couldn't irrigate its commercial crops without a water right. According to Mike McCord, the Northwest Region Manager, water is a finite resource. The system of appropriation has been in place since 1909 in Oregon. It allows us to better manage the resource by having a permitting system. So this exemption for 5,000 gallons a day, which is for commercial, one-time or single operation, commercial and industrial use. So if you had multiple locations, you couldn't use the exemption multiple times, right? They shut her down because, according to the Oregon Water Resources Department, the exemption for commercial use does not include irrigation of land. Now, looking into the actual Oregon exempt use for wells, it says nothing about does not include irrigation of land. All it says is that if you're a commercial user or industrial user, you get a single-use permit of up to 5,000 gallons per day.
So I had to stop it because that's exactly what I was saying a minute ago, that if their laws aren't in place a certain way, they can tack on stuff. And that's what they did with this woman. They just tacked on some crap about irrigation, had nothing to do with what he's showing right here and their rules and laws and stuff. So it's just really a joke. It's a joke. They know what they're doing, and it's not for the people. It's against the people. And I'm all about trying to help out the people, especially the underdogs. So this is some nonsense, and this is crazy how deep this gets. So continue.
For a $300 fee, and basically the state of Oregon is coming in now, and they're putting things on people's wells to measure the amount of water. It's very invasive. Measure the amount of water they're consuming each day. And supposedly Oregon's had these rules in place since 1909. They just keep changing them and keep implementing more things to them. Anyway, so they've sent out letters not just to this one farmer, but multiple small farms, market garden farms, saying you can't water your crops anymore. Because under the exemption clause, irrigation isn't covered. This is actually a war on small farms. It's a war on small farms. I mean, why would you consider a small farmer with a couple milk cows and a milking stand in their barn a CAFO? That typically is not what you would think of as a CAFO. They're in confinement for a short period of time. They come up to eat and get milked, and then they go. Your chickens and egg laying, you know, for example, where we have our chickens, we put their food inside the building so that it doesn't get rained on. I mean, we could be considered a CAFO under the state of Oregon's definition, and they could come to us and say, you got to shut your chickens down. You can't raise any more eggs unless you go through, you know, this permitting process and put in, you know, $100,000 worth of infrastructure to deal with the wastewater that's going to come off of that little 10 by 12 foot chicken house. This is one of the most egregious.
So it's just stupid. I mean, listen to what this man's saying. You hear the frustration in his voice. He's using this platform as a way to express his anger, try to make people aware of what's happening, as well as I am. Because this is like, to me, it blew my mind when I saw this. I'm thinking, are you serious? Like, I mean, first you want to do all this other crap to defund the police, and then, like, you know, throw all these laws in that where it has to do with people's feelings and stupid and all these other little stupid things. But to take away somebody that's supposed to naturally live off of land, that anybody's supposed to. Truly, we all are supposed to be able to live off land and understand how to do things on land. You know, like camping is another way of trying to learn how to live off land. You know, even though it's a thing to go relax, to get away, to be around nature, it's also a way to understand how to survive without, you know, the technology and all the things that we consider luxuries, you know, in our household. But to sit back and have people who actually feel like living in the land and working with animals and all this, to take that away from them, the thing that finds joy, that brings them joy and happiness, is a complete insult. It's just, I don't even know how to really express it, but I'm pissed about it myself because it doesn't make any sense. You're not protecting people, you're not helping the animals, you're not, I mean, you understand if it was like animal abuse or something, you would tack some weird laws on, but there's none of that going on. It's just regular people trying to live off the land. And the whole thing with the water and the well thing, that's stupid. Okay, ground has water underneath, sky brings water daily. I don't get what the big deal is. Just let people live out there the way they want. They're not using the thing I'm saying is they're not using the city water, they're not using the state water system where they're paying water bills and stuff. They're using natural water that comes from the earth or from above. So I don't understand why they believe they own it. It just doesn't make any sense.
Just overreaches I have seen yet so far since I've been covering this stuff. And it's pretty obvious what's happening here. It's pretty obvious when they interpret a law other than what the law says. To say, no, it doesn't include irrigation, we're shutting down all the why is it so illegal to grow food in Oregon? And then, you know, to go after small farmers who have very small operations, who aren't producing much poo or any type of runoff, really, and making them come up to code with the large-scale operations. I don't even think that this is necessarily something that's coming from the big dairy lobbyists, although, you know, it wouldn't surprise me. Tom Vilsack is a big dairy lobbyist. In fact, he ran the largest lobbying group for dairy farmers. Whether you liked it or not, you had to pay into this Got Milk campaign and all this stuff, which paid his salary. Now he's our Secretary of Agriculture. And you know, it was kind of an enslaving thing for a lot of dairy farmers. A lot of dairy farmers didn't like the fact that they were, you know, stuck in these programs, but they didn't have a choice, right? If they wanted to sell milk, there's so much regulation around it, and so they depended on people like Tom Vilsack. So it could be that the dairy, you know, this group that Tom Vilsack was president of came in and said, you know what, we want you to change the definition of a small farm to be included with CAFOs because we don't like the unfair competition.
See, like I said, there's a nail on the head. The thing I said in the beginning, it's about competition between the wealthy and the poor. So it's like you want to make the poor people not be competition for the wealthy people. And the whole thing with the Got Milk campaign, I had no idea that farmers had to buy into it. Dairy farmers had to buy into it to sell milk, and that this guy got wealthy over it. So I just learned something. Maybe I didn't pay attention the first time, or I just got pissed from the first part of this, which most likely I did, because like I said, this is something I want to do. I want to get out of it. The city's gone to hell. It's like Gotham City around this place, and and there ain't no more Batmans and crap. People are so, everybody wants to be the Riddler or the Joker or some crap. But this crap here is ridiculous because it's saying, hey, we don't want you to live at all. We don't want you to grow anything. We don't want you to have any animals. We don't want you to have any water. We don't want you to take care of animals. We don't want you to do anything. So it's like you just out there eating dirt, drinking your own urine. So it's like, this is stupid. And that's all. I don't get it. I really don't.
It's very unfair now, because there's no way that these small farmers can possibly do what they're being asked to do and run a successful business. They can't afford that type of infrastructure input. But seeing that this is coming at two different fronts at the same time, so the market gardeners started getting shut down in the fall, the small dairy farmers, and the way that this law reads, it'll include eggs and chicken and hogs, dairy goats, whatever it is that you have on your property, you can get shut down under what they're stating is the law and the policy in the state of Oregon. And they started going after them at the beginning of the year. That's when you saw these lawsuits start coming in and saying, hey, this is unconstitutional, because it is. They're stopping people from growing food. And, a market gardener or a small dairy farmer, they're not really competing or taking any percentage of the larger farmers. I don't think that the larger farmers really care. But these industry groups, these lobbyists, these associations, they might care. The bigger problem is that the government, the people who are elected to the state of Oregon, they're the ones that want to enforce these policies.
So there you go. There's a middle here, like I said. The government wants to stop things from happening. But still, once again, think about it. Even when you say there's competition between the rich and the small farmers, okay, there's no different way to make milk. It's going to come out of a cow. It's going to come out of a goat. It's going to come out of whatever livestock that makes milk, produces it. It doesn't come out of some big chick, I don't know. some women, I don't know. That would be some weird crap if you had a farm where women are actually producing milk and putting it out there, and it'd be a big problem. And that actually did happen here in Oregon with a woman that was producing breast milk and freezing it and giving it to mothers that could not produce breast milk because they wanted to feed their babies. And it was going on for a minute, I guess. And then I don't remember it was on the news and everything. And then I think they shut it down because they thought like there was some kind of, I forget what it was. It's not pasteurization, but some kind of thing where like the woman produces a certain chemical with the breast milk and whatever, and it's like it could be harmful for other babies or something. I can't remember exactly how it was put down, but it was stupid. And when I first heard about it, I was thinking that's a good idea because women that got babies and they want to breastfeed instead of doing chemicals or whatever you call it, powder stuff. But I think that it was a good idea, and that it could help babies, especially that's sick, and it would probably build the immune system a little bit better than the chemical stuff. And that seems more logical to me. It's just like what happened around COVID time or after COVID or somewhere. But to me, 2000 and 2001 were the same dang, or not 2000, but 20 and 21 were the same dang year. Okay, but they had the whole thing where the chemical breast milk or whatever, not chemical, powdered stuff. The chemical stuff for formula, that's what it's called. Okay, so the formula wasn't being made, and they couldn't give it to the babies and all this, and everybody was flipping out around the nation. But the thing about it, what's stupid is women are supposed to breastfeed. Just breastfeed your babies. It makes the baby stronger, builds a better bond between the mother and the child, and there's certain things that produced out of the milk that the baby needs that formulas don't do. And we gotta look at stuff like that, formulas and things like that. And once again, try to understand what they're truly putting in it. Even though you got a label that tells you the recipes and everything on every single item, I don't believe it's 100% the way it's supposed to be. So, with that being said, I think this whole government plot against farmers is outrageous. It's a crime against God, humanity, and nature. Because, like I said, Adam and Eve were supposed to tend the garden. We're supposed to go out, and even after they got kicked out of the garden, they're supposed to, have to deal with tearing up weeds or what do you call it? Dang, I can't even think about it right now. I'm trying to talk these words in my head, can't say them, but you know what I'm saying. Afterwards they had to pull weeds out, and they had to use things to tear up the land and all this to grow things, and that's where it actually came from. But before that, everything was just growing around them, and God, wanted to make it look nice, I guess. So they had to tend the garden. But this situation here is evil in the most wicked of the way. So this is morally right, this is morally wrong. And this is why I said it's a moral value, it's a moral conversation here, because they're trying to take away the natural order of things. And for whatever, they have no excuse of whatever they're trying to do to replace that. That's the thing. If they had to say, okay, you can't use well water, you can't use rainwater, but you can use the state's water, that would make sense. Or if they were saying, hey, you can't build certain things this way, but let's show you how to build it this way, it might be more efficient. They don't have anything to replace anything that they're trying to take away. So it's not about safety codes, or they say they got permits, but the permits are for what? Just to do some crazy nonsense. So it's stupid. It's really dumb.
They're the ones that are going out and purposefully, meticulously shutting down not just 5 or 6 farms, but we're talking in one mailing over 25 market gardeners, and they basically said, look, here's how we do this. We hear complaints, we have a hotline for neighbors to call in and say, this person's growing a market garden, they're selling their vegetables to the public, and they're utilizing our water resources. Tattletales is what I call them. Or they use satellite imagery and they say, okay, this person has a business license, they have this farm name for their farm, and they're growing crops on their land, and they're using their well water. They can tell all that from satellite images. We talk about that all the time on our farm because it's kind of creepy. Each year you get your satellite images updated of your property, and they start pinpointing where new buildings are. They'll actually send people out sometimes to assess you for more property taxes.
Yeah, I forgot about this part. Now that's even worse. That's worser than, it's not worser, but it's worse. I'm not trying to, I don't know any other way to say it. I forgot about this part too. So this part here is is the most strong invasion of privacy there is, to take drones and put them over a property and then come and tell you, you can't have this on your property, we saw it through a drone or whatever. It just doesn't make any sense. Take photos of your land. It's supposed to be your land. That's the problem with owning property outright. Most people think you have to get the mortgage to buy the house. You don't. You just buy it with cash. Okay, I bought a house. I spent $135 grand on it when the market was cheap, and I didn't have to pay no freaking mortgage. I just paid taxes, property taxes once a year. And those of y'all that have homes and know what I'm talking about, that had the money and was able to buy it, then you know what I'm saying. But most people, they buy a mortgage and they think, okay, I own this place, and the bank can take it back at any time and do whatever, they give you balloon payments, all this crap to take your house back. So you really don't own it. And so whatever you build around it, unless you can truly pay it all off, they can take it back, and then you be going through some kind of crap for damaging the property or whatever. But in this situation, this is ridiculous. They own the land, now you're taking photos of the stuff, you're telling them they can't grow stuff. When does it end? Where does the crap end of the government putting penalizations on us, taking things from us, taxing us, and then having 1,000 different loopholes through taxes, loopholes through what they're trying to do, and they keep adding more things on this stuff? Are we truly in the land of the free? Are we in the land of being punished, taxed, and being in debt? Or is even that even a rumor? Hell, because we gotta borrow money from ourselves once again. That makes no sense to me, but it was made by Alexander Hamilton. So it's like we're in a situation where anything is questionable. Anything can be taxed. Anything can be taken from us at any time. We don't truly own anything, and we got to be very careful who we deal with, who actually agrees with this crap. Because that means those people are just about as wicked as these other people that's trying to do these things to these people. And I keep saying people. If I was writing this in a book, I think it wouldn't work because you can't say the same word in a sentence twice, if I remember right. Leave comments to tell me if I'm right. So, yeah.
At the same time that all of this is going on, the state of California is restricting water due to drought to 2,500 farmers. They're at 15% of their water supply right now. And we've seen this happening over and over and over again, where we're seeing them utilize water rights, water protection, for the public good, and using it to shut down farms across our country. Okay, if you look at the number of farms that we've lost since 2000, it's staggering. We've gone from 2,100,000 farms in 2000 down to 1,859,000 farms at the end of last year. And the scary thing about it is most of those losses, if you look at this on a chart, are within the last 4 or 5 years. And so the speed at which we're losing small farms have increased dramatically. And what have you seen? You've seen a lot of these cases where they've gone in and they just shut off farms to water rights to an entire valley at a time because of drought. And in this case, they're shutting it off because of trout, not drought, trout, T. And what we're seeing in Oregon is we're seeing them take control over people's wells, putting meters on people's wells, shutting down small farms, shutting down small, what they call CAFOs, but small dairy farms, small goat farms, small.
So one thing I noticed, and this is different off the top of the, off of topic of what he's saying, is he keeps saying Oregon instead of saying Oregon. People from Oregon say Oregon. People from out of state say Oregon. But he must be somewhere in between. He just mentioned California, so he must be on the border of California and Oregon, or Idaho and Oregon, or Washington and Oregon, who knows. But either way, it's just something I noticed. You would notice it too, wherever state you come from, what people call it outside of the state.
Chicken farms, however you want to. It includes all of them, right? In the name of protecting the quality of our groundwater. Now, I'm somebody who's all for, protecting groundwater. I think that we cause a lot of environmental degradation. I don't buy in at all to the global warming CO2 thing, but I do think that there are things that we need to do to protect our environment. And from my experience, most of the farms that I've visited, most of the farmers that I know, take protecting their environment and their land very seriously. I mean, when you look at these small market gardeners, and they're putting water out on their crops, most of them take soil science extremely seriously. And the better your soil science is, it's retaining a lot more of that moisture. So it's not really wasting as much water as one would think. It's not wasting as much water as, say, an industrial farmer who's tilling up, hundreds of acres at a time and then putting sprayers out on them.
So right there, what he just said, this is the type of stuff you would lose if you was to get rid of all farms. He said there's a lot of soil science. He's talking about as good as your soil science is, the moisture you keep in the soil. And the thing about it is, that's a technique that you have to only learn from farming. Or being able to garden. You have to have soil that's going to make your plants grow good, but at the same time be able to have enough moisture to be able to make the plant be able to absorb the soil. I mean, well, the water out of the soil and the minerals and all that stuff. So these are techniques. These aren't just like, this is a lifestyle, but it's a technique, and it's also something that's passed down. I mean, maybe there's people that can break horses better than most people, or someone that can make cows produce more milk better, and be able to to get chickens to lay eggs faster. You never know what the situation is, but it's something that's probably been passed down for mother to daughter, daughter to father, or whatever. You know what I mean? I said that all messed up. But anyway,
These market gardeners don't have to utilize
father to son.
that much water every single day, the way that they manage their soil, the way that they grow their foods. It's actually probably much better. It is better. A small dairy farmer with cows that spend 99% of their time out in the field, or a small chicken farmer whose chickens only go into the coop at night, or maybe if they have some feed out, they go in there to get some feed, but then they're out frolicking and doing their thing. This could actually, because it leaves it open on the type of animal, it could actually apply to rabbit farmers, people who are raising rabbits. And I've seen rabbit setups where they're in areas with concrete floors that make them easy to scrape out. They put hay down for them. They make a very comfortable environment, but they have concrete floors to scrape them out. That would be considered a CAFO, even if they only have 2 or 3 rabbits in that space. You have to ask yourself, at what point in time is the government overreaching their objective in trying to protect the public?
That's the point right there. Just pay attention to that, rewind it, play it back again, and then rewind it again, and then just get it embedded in your brain, because that's what's going on. At what point is they going to realize that they can't get away with this stuff? Okay? And I'm cool with this. I'm cool with that. It's like, why do we keep trying to support a government that's against us? And then you have these two parties that are actually both against us, but they're trying to confuse the hell out of us, just like the English language confuses everybody. So it makes no sense. It's stupid.
And just use their rules and their regulations to control the public. At what point in time are they taking away people's resources that they should have the right to have? Everybody should have the right to fresh food. Everybody should have the right to farm fresh food. Oregon is basically taking that right away from every Oregon citizen by taking away the rights of the small farmers to operate their businesses in the name of some laws that were originally put in place to protect groundwater from much larger scale operations. They've just simply reworded things and created their own definition about irrigation being a part of the commercial exemption or not. And in doing so, they're shutting down these small farmers who are the main resource for a lot of people to get, farm fresh, direct to farm produce and meats in the state of Oregon. I would think that this should open up the people's eyes a little bit and maybe help them realize that what these people are doing is not protecting them. It's taking away their rights. It's taking away their access to good, healthy foods, and get some of these people out of there. My fear is that other states are going to look at these court cases, they're going to look at what the state of Oregon has done, and they're going to start implementing it on their own. And that's something that we've seen time and time again. There's usually a state or city that does something. They do something that is obviously overreaching for any government in a free country. And then, it's like a test to see how it's challenged, where it's challenged, and what policies worked so that they can proceed. And then once you get through that test phase, once you get through all the kinks, you start seeing it spread to other states.
So I'm going to end it right there, but this guy makes a good point, and he continues to lay down the good points, because it's just really dumb that, and this is something I don't understand myself, is why the people, we're talking about supposed to be for the people, by the people, but the people don't stand up for these rights, and they let the government walks all over us, looking at them like they're kings and queens when they're really just a bunch of selective, wealthy people they put together, and all they do is just dictate our lives and ruin it, and then put all these laws and things. They just had to re-legalize making drugs. Put it back in the law system that drugs are illegal. which is stupid because and they kept saying on the news for like, I don't know, a month, oh, the fentanyl experiment or the drug experiment, like what the hell, you put people's lives in danger, you put all these homeless people out there just so you can experiment on making drugs legal. It's wrong. It's morally wrong. This situation that he's talking about is morally wrong, and someone has to wake up and realize that if we're all going to live in this country, we either got to unite and come together against